Today we're going to be walking through the Agreement of Purchase and Sale. This is the official document you'll use when you're buying a home in Ontario. This is Form 100, created by the Ontario Real Estate Association. Now, I know it looks long and formal, but here is the good news. This document is actually designed to protect you. It is there to create clarity, it set expectations, and at the end of this, you're going to understand exactly what you're signing. Think of this document like a rules of the game. When both sides understand the rules up front, everything will go smoothly. There will be no surprises and no confusion. We're going to go through this section by section. I'll show you the official terminology, the real words associated with them, and I'll explain what they actually mean in plain English. So let's get started. Now, what is this document really, right? The Agreement in Purchase and Sale is a legally binding contract that outlines your entire real estate transaction. In Ontario, we all use the same form, which is Form 100, so everyone speaks the same language. Think about it like this. If you are buying something important, like a car, you don't just shake somebody's hand and say, all right, we hope for the best, everything's going to be great. No, you actually have a sales contract that says, here is what you are buying, here is what you are paying, and here is when you are going to pick up the car. This agreement is the same thing, except for real estate. It creates certainty for both the buyer and the seller, so you know exactly what you're getting. The seller knows exactly when they are getting paid. Your real estate agent didn't write this, but they'll work with this form to customize it to your specific purchase. So your lawyer will then review it to make sure everything is there to protect your interests. You're not doing this alone. You have professionals helping you every step of the way. Now, let's talk about the first section, the basics, the date, the buyer, and the seller. At the very top of this agreement, you'll see a date. This is simply when the offer is being created. It is day one of your purchase journey. Below that, you'll see three fields, buyer, seller. So let's talk about the buyer and seller first. The buyer, well, that's you or your partner, whoever you are buying your home with. Your full legal names go there exactly as they appear on your government ID. Make sure you provide your government ID to your real estate agent. The seller is basically the current owner of the property. Their full legal names will be exactly written here as they appear on title. Your agent will make sure that these names are spelled correctly, exactly as they appear on an official document like driver license and the title deed. Why does this matter? Well, because your lawyer will register the deed. When they officially transfer ownership to you, the names have to match exactly. Getting these details right from the start means everything goes smoothly without any delays. Your agent will handle this, so they verify everything is correct before you even sign. Now let's move on to what real property section is and the legal description. Next is going to be a section where you see real property. This is where you will have the street address, which side the street is on, the lot number, the plan number, the legal description. Now, the street address is pretty obvious, right? So let's say an example, 123 Main Street. But then there's something called legal description. This is the official government identifier for the property. It might say something like Lot 42, Plan 1234, Municipality of Toronto. The legal description is what actually gets registered at the land registry. It basically is the property ID number in the government system. Why is this useful? Well, it's precise. It makes sure everything that is there is no confusion about the property that you are buying. There's no way to accidentally buy the wrong house. Your lawyer will review this to make sure it's correct, and this is one of the ways that they really do protect you. Now, let's talk about the next section, which is the purchase price. That is the number that you are negotiating. So this is very straightforward, right? This is the total money that you agree to pay for that property. Let's say you negotiated a price of $500,000. That number will go directly there. It's clear, it's simple, everyone knows what the buyer is buying and what they're paying for it and what the seller will be receiving. Later, there will be an adjustment at closing, things like property taxes, insurance, but this is your starting point. Now, let's talk about the deposit. The deposit is your good faith money. The deposit section is very important. So when you make an offer, you will provide a deposit to show that you are very serious. Typically, it's 2 to 5% of the purchase price. Now, in some cases, this deposit is due right away or it is due upon acceptance. So if they accept your offer. Now, here's how it works. You write a check for that amount, but you don't give it to the seller directly. Instead, it goes into the real estate broker's trust account, and it is protected. It is not the seller's money yet. It is sitting there safely until completion. And at completion, which is closing day, the deposit is credited towards your down payment. So if you put $20,000 as a deposit, your total down payment is $100,000, that $20,000 is already counted towards it. Now, let's say if the seller rejects your offer or you had a conditional offer and you want to back out, you get your deposit back. No questions asked. This is a very straightforward and very fair system to protect you as a buyer. Your agent will definitely be able to handle all this. They manage the deposit and make sure it's applied correctly. Now let's talk about the next section. This next section is very important because the language gets a little tricky, where we will be talking about something which is called irrevocability. What does irrevocable even mean? It means that it cannot be taken back, right? So this section is saying something like, this offer shall be irrevocable by the buyer until date and time. So what does that mean? It basically says you cannot take your offer. It is irrevocable until that certain date and time that you have decided. So typically, this section really exists. Let's say you're making an offer at Saturday at 10 a.m. You can say that the seller has until Sunday at 5 p.m. to make a decision whether they accept or decline this offer. The seller will get the offer and they think about it. They know that they have until Sunday at 5 p.m. to get back to you and decide on their decision. They also know that you cannot withdraw your offer before that time comes in, so you are committed to it. Without the irrevocability clause, you could make an offer on Saturday morning, then change your mind Saturday afternoon if something better came along. This wouldn't be fair to the seller. The irrevocability clause creates certainty and fairness. Your agent will be able to negotiate the deadlines and the seller with the seller agent, typically 24 hours to 48 hours. Once that deadline passes, the seller hasn't accepted or hasn't gotten back to you, your offer has expired, and if you had provided a deposit, that deposit would be given back to you. And again, deposits can be something that are conditional. If they accept, then you can provide it. It's very common to do that than giving a deposit up front. Now let's talk about the next section, which is called the completion date. Now, as you see the completion date, sometimes we call that the closing day. It is the official day you own the house and you can take possession. This is a big date. You typically negotiate 30 to 60 days from acceptance. This gives you plenty of time to arrange your mortgage, get your inspection done, and prepare for the move. On completion date, aka closing date, here's what that means. Your lawyer will handle the electronic transfer of your down payment and the seller will register the deed in your name. You get the keys and you move in. It's all coordinated. It's done by the lawyers. And at completion date, it can't be on a weekend. Just remember that, right? It can't be on a stat holiday, so no Labor Day weekend, no Canada Day. It has to be on a regular business day when the government land registry is open. So your agent and lawyer will make sure that this date works for everyone. Now, before we get to the completion date, more about the completion date we will be discussing later on, but let's talk about the notices. So the next section is notices, and notices basically how communication works. As your deal moves forward, there will be documents and updates, amendments, waivers that will be passed on to your lawyer, seller's lawyer, and the other real estate agents involved. So this section is basically saying, here is the contact information of who we're using, their fax number, their email address, the phone number. If you need to send something to the other side, you use this information. Your agents will be providing their contact information in this section, and the sellers will do the same. They create the clear line of communication so nobody misses an important update. Your agent is there to be the messenger for any need that you have. Your agent will handle this, so you do not need to worry anything about this. Now let's talk about the next section, which is chattels included, right? So this is a very important section where you list the personal property, things that aren't attached to the house that you want included in the purchase price. So chattels is a legal term for personal property. It means movable items. Let's say you love the refrigerator in the kitchen, the outdoor furniture, or the backyard grill. If you want these items included in the purchase price, you list them right here. For example, Samsung stainless steel refrigerator or outdoor patio furniture, you enter this in that You would even be as specific as saying that there are 6 chairs for the patio furniture and the table. Being specific is very helpful because then there's no confusion later on. Your agent will discuss this with you during the offer process. They will make sure any items that you want included are clearly written down. This is a collaboration between you and your agent, obviously, so you have to identify what matters to you. Most of the time, appliances are included and it would be written out in this section. Now we're moving to point 5, which is going to be talking about fixtures excluded, which is basically saying what the seller is keeping. Now, the fixtures excluded, think of it as the flip side as the previous section. Fixtures are items that are attached to the house, so light fixtures, ceiling fans, built-in shelving, that kind of thing. Generally, fixtures stay with the house when it's sold, but sometimes the seller wants to keep something, maybe an antique chandelier that's been in their family for generations. If the seller wants to remove an attached item, it gets listed in this section. This way you know upfront what's staying and what's leaving, so there will be no surprises. Again, your agent will handle this conversation with the seller's agent. Everything gets documented clearly. Now let's talk about section number 6, rental items. Rental items in this section are basically disclosures stating which equipment is leased rather than owned. So some equipment in homes are rented out by companies. For example, a hot water tank, a furnace might be leased and not owned by the seller. If this applies to your property, it is listed here and is actual good information to know because it's an ongoing expense. For instance, if there's a lease for a hot water tank, you'll know the monthly payment associated with it. Let's say $20 a month. You can factor that into your budget and understand that you'll be taking over this lease when you close. Your agent will be able to get this information from the seller and include it here. You're going to be informed about this upfront, which is exactly how it should be. Now, let's talk about the next section, which is HST. So we're on point number 7. The HST is the harmonized sales tax, addresses another a sales tax that applies to this purchase. Now, in most residential cases, HST is not applied. So if you're buying a house for yourself or even an investment property, well, not always an investment property, but let's say you're buying it for yourself, there is no HST, so you don't need to worry about this. But when you're buying brand new construction or you're buying a commercial property, then you will definitely have this issue. So if HST is applied to your purchase, it will be clearly stated here. This is important because you know exactly what you're paying for. HST in Ontario is 13%, so HST applied to a $500,000 home would actually equate to $565,000 as a purchase price. So your agent will advise you on this before you make an offer. So if HST is relevant, your lawyer will be able to explain it and make sure that the agreement is clear about what you're paying. The point is basically everything is transparent so you know the total cost. Again, in most residential cases, you do not have to pay HST on top of the purchase price. Now, the next section, point 8, title search. So this is basically saying that it's a set deadline for your lawyer to investigate the property's history before you complete, which is the closing. So before occupancy, your lawyer will do something called the title search. That's basically confirming that the seller actually owns the property and that there aren't any hidden claims or any problems attached to it. Your lawyer will basically be searching the government records. What do they check? Well, they check, does the seller actually own this property? Are there any mortgages against this property? Are there any property tax claims or any liens or any potential work orders from the city? Now, this section has a deadline date, which is called a requisition date, by which your lawyer must complete the search by. If your lawyer finds anything unusual, they raise it to the seller's lawyer. The seller has time to address it before completion. Here's why this is very helpful. If the issues were raised with the property and your lawyer finds out before you close on the property, then you have options. You can ask the seller to fix it. You can ask for a credit. You can renegotiate. Your lawyer will handle this completely. It's one of the key things they do to protect you. Now, it's important to talk about the next few sections, and we're going to talk about the future use, title, closing arrangements, and documents discharge. So this can be all tied up together, and the way that this is going to be is The title, let's talk about the future use, right? So the future is basically saying that the buyer is entitled to get what the agreement is providing to them. If the buyer intends on turning this into a commercial property, then there are no assurances that the buyer will be able to do so. So if you take a regular home and you want to turn it into like a commercial gym, you may not be able to, because we cannot guarantee the future use. Then the next section is the title, which is point 10. And this paragraph is basically setting out that the buyer is entitled to a subject of number of things, right? So minor utility easements for gas, water, hydro, and so on. The buyer will also have to accept the restrictive covenants, which is promises provided by the title. Now, the closing arrangements is basically stating that you will be doing your closing arrangements. You can do an electronic signature if you want. We'll be talking more about this as we go ahead. Next section is basically documents and discharge. The seller is agreeing to deliver the buyer the documents of the seller's possession respecting to the property, which includes the surveys, the deeds, so all that, they will have full cooperation. Again, real estate agents and lawyers did not make this agreement. It is the Ontario Real Estate Board, which is OREA, and the association has created this, and this is for specifically to protect both you and the buyer. So these are standard clauses that do not typically get erased. Now, the next section, which is more important to you guys, would be the inspection. The inspection is a crucial section. So right now we're in point 13, and it is basically a very standard understanding of what an inspection is. So the agreement of purchase and sale does not state automatically that you will have a home inspection, but we add it as a condition. So here's how it works. You make an offer conditional on receiving the satisfactory home inspection, usually within 5 business days. You hire a professional home inspector. They examine the house, roof, foundation, plumbing, electrical, heating, everything. They will give you a detailed report regarding that. Now, let's say if the inspection is good, then you move forward. If the inspector finds something that would concern you, you can discuss it with the seller. You might ask for a repair, a credit, or you might renegotiate the price altogether. This is a really helpful step. It gives you the confidence in your purchase. Your agent will definitely discuss with you what to do and help you decide if you want to add this condition. Most buyers do. It is a smart move to obviously add a condition for inspection. Now let's talk about point 14, insurance. Insurance section addresses the responsibility of the property before completion. Until the completion date, the property is the seller's responsibility. They own it and they're responsible for maintaining and insuring it. This is actually good for you, especially as a buyer. It means that anything that happens to the property before you close, it is the seller's problems, not yours. Their insurance would cover it. On completion date, that responsibility gets transferred over to you. That's why you arrange home insurance to take effect of the completion date. Your mortgage lender will actually require proof of insurance before they even give you the full mortgage funds. So you'll definitely have to have insurance in place. This makes sure that both sides are protected. Now, the next one is going to be section 15 is really talking about the Planning Act and the future use. The future use of the property is very important. So again, we have kind of discussed this a little bit in the last section, so I'll be very quick with it. For example, if you're buying a residential house or dreaming of someday converting it into like a duplex or a running business, the seller is saying that they can't guarantee it because they don't know if the city would allow it. So we're really just repeating a lot of the stuff that we've already reiterated in the past. Again, the APS is designed to protect both you and the seller. And if you have specific plans like running a business on the property, make sure you inform your realtor about that, because like that will help them find the right property for you. Now let's just go over directly to the title section of this, because it's very important that we go through this. All these clauses that are going forward are very important, but also it's one of those things that you have to go ahead and basically understand that this is there as more for you to understand than anything else. They're more legal verbiages than anything else. So give me 1 second so I can talk a little bit about the Planning Act. So what the Planning Act is really the Ontario Planning Act controls how properties are used and subdivided. For most residential homes, this isn't relevant. Again, it's the house that has been residential for years, then there's no issue at all. But if there's something unusual about the property, like the seller needs to make sure that everything is there in compliance with municipal regulations. Again, your lawyer will check on this. It's part of their title review. In most cases, there's never any issues, but if there are, your lawyer will flag that and will address it to the seller before completion. Document preparation, this is basically who pays for what. Varies from, like legal documents. Again, it is more specifically to the lawyer. The seller's lawyer will prepare the documents and the seller will pay for it. That is very standard. If you're getting a mortgage, your lender will require mortgage documents. Your lawyer will prepare that as well. Everything is prepared correctly and according to Ontario's requirement. And again, your lawyer will handle this. It's part of their expertise. So let's talk a little bit about residency. Again, it is more of a tax consideration. If the seller is a non-resident of Canada, then there are some tax procedures that they would have to follow. And in most cases, the seller is a Canadian resident, so it isn't applicable and it is not relevant to you. Now let's talk about the adjustments section. So adjustments are basically saying that this is how costs are going to be split between you and the seller. At completion, the closing date, there are various costs that are divided based on who's responsible for what time period. For example, if you're buying the property and you're closing on it on June 15th, the seller pays their share of the property taxes from January through June 15. You pay from June 15 and onward. It's prorated fairly. The same applies to utility bills, condo fees, mortgage interest, and any other ongoing costs. Your lawyer will calculate all of this precisely. Usually it is a result of small adjustments one way or another. It's all part of the normal completion process, so everything is divided fairly. Now, Section 19 is the property assessment, so understanding the tax changes. Ontario basically has a power or a tool to reassess properties regularly. Property tax assessments can change from year to year based on current property values. This is just a part of home ownership. It is not the seller's responsibility once you complete. It's something that you will budget as a homeowner. This clause simply says that this is made to you, disclosed to you upfront. It's a good understanding that the property tax assessments can vary from year to year, but it is normal, and that is how they calculate your property taxes, the assessed value. They never go based off the actual market value. Now let's talk about time limits. So again, deadlines matter. This is basically saying that all the dates in this agreement, they are associated with a deadline. So the irrevocability deadline, the inspection deadline, the mortgage deadline, the requisition deadline, and the completion date, which is when you get the keys. That said, if you both agree and the seller agree, you can extend the deadline in writing, but it requires both sides to agree. Okay, so the point is, deadlines create certainty and keep things moving forward and smoothly. Your agent and lawyer will make sure that you're meeting all your deadlines and are on top of it. So point 21 is tender. Tender is basically showing that you're ready to complete. On completion date, your lawyer will have your down payment funds ready. The seller's lawyer will have the deed ready. When both sides confirm they're ready, when they tender, everything becomes clear. Think of it like, you're meeting with a box of briefcase, a briefcase filled with cash, and the other side will have the paper to show ownership that you are now the legal owner. Tender is just a legal word. Honestly, it just means I'm ready, and here's my part of the obligation that I had to do on my end, and then the seller does there. So your lawyer will deal with it. When both tenders are made and confirmed, that's when the deal is complete. Now, the Family Law Act is basically stated here, which is very important. If the seller is married, for example, and the seller's spouse needs to consent the sale, this will protect you from any future claims where the seller warrants that, hey, they could not be, say a spouse comes back later saying, hey, this was done without my consent. The Family Law Act applies, so you are protected, and your lawyer will confirm everything before that is obtained and documented. In most cases, this is so straightforward. It's just a formality that really just protects everyone. Now, point 23 is about UFI. So UFI is basically a product that was used back in the 1970s and early 80s, the seller represents that to their knowledge that this product isn't in the home. Your home inspector will definitely be able to look at the home and comment on the installation. In most modern homes, this isn't an issue, but it's a good understanding to know that your inspector knows what to look for, but it is rarely a problem. Now, the next few sections are basically legal, accounting, environmental advice, right? So this section clarifies the professional responsibilities. Your real estate agent can give you real estate advice. For your legal questions, you have a lawyer. For tax questions, you have an accountant. For environmental concerns, you would hire an environmental specialist. Each professional has their area of expertise. This clause simply is there to clarify who does what. Having a team of professionals actually makes the whole process a lot easier and more protective for you, and that's why we offer that. Now, let's talk about the consumer report. So, this section of Section 25 is basically saying that it's notifying that the seller or their lender might run a credit check on you. This is very standard practice. Most likely the seller won't, but the lender definitely that you are deciding to go ahead with will run a credit check, and this is a very standard practice. It just confirms that you are able to complete the purchase, and there's nothing to worry about, and it's completely normal. Okay. Now, the next section is saying agreement in writing. So we're on point 26. And this section just clarifies that this is the complete agreement between you and the seller. If you and the seller add anything to this form, like adding an inspection condition or additions to supersede the standard printed text, everything you've agreed to is in writing right here on this form. There are no hidden side agreements or promises made. Now, the next section is the electronic signatures, which is basically saying that you are agreeing to sign electronically. You know, both parties need to agree that this is a standard practice, and it makes the process a lot faster and more convenient to everyone. So you don't need to physically sign with wet signatures. Everything can be done digital. So now the next section, point 28, is time and date. Time and date section really just clarifies that all times in this agreement are determined where the property is located. So this matters if the property is located in a different time zone. Again, it does not really apply to us, but it is a technical detail, and it's nice to understand how things are done. Now, let's go to the most important section, which is the next section, which is 20.29, successors and assigns. So this is where you as a buyer would be signing and the seller would be signing that you are agreeing to go ahead. Confirmation of acceptance, this is when the deal becomes official, right? So this is where the exact date and time are recorded when both parties have accepted the agreement. This marks the official start of your binding contract. So this section of confirmation of acceptance would state exactly when and what time the buyer or the seller have agreed to the deal. Now, here's what we've technically covered, right? Altogether, we have covered a lot so far, but I want to go over that there is an acknowledgement section. Right at the bottom, you will see that the buyer and the seller will confirm again that this is a legally binding agreement. And in your Schedule A will have all the conditions. So where you see it blanked right now, right in this section on the right-hand side, you will see that your home inspection condition will be here, your financing condition, your status certificate condition if you're buying a condo or a condo townhome. All of this will be what your real estate agent will be working on to protect you. And that's when we put an offer live, we will go over that together. This is very important, and I have just basically a conclusion for you guys that we've covered a lot so far, and I know it's a lot of legal terms, but each one has a purpose, right? So it's only there to create more clarity. It's there to set expectations and to protect both the buyer and the seller. As a buyer, you have a team supporting you. So your agent is negotiating the terms and handling logistics. Your your lawyer reviews everything legally. Your inspector will check the property, and your mortgage lender will provide the financing. You're not doing this by yourself. You have professionals literally there to help you. What do you need to do? Well, understand what you're signing, learn the terminology. So terminology like completion date, so that is the closing date, chattels, fixtures, irrevocability, so you can speak the same language with your team. Ask questions about anything that is unclear. Make sure that these conditions are the conditions that you want, so like an inspection are included, and trust the process. Real estate transactions happen thousands of times every single day in Ontario. When you have a good guidance and you understand the document, it goes smoothly. So take a deep breath. You're making a great decision, and you'll do great. And again, if this house does not work out for you, that's okay. It meant that it wasn't meant to be, and there will always be another house. If you are in a situation where you're bidding and you keep losing, that's okay. You're going to get the home that will be meant for you, and it just means coming up with a different strategy. And you have to remember that you have to keep the emotions out of it because it is a transaction. There are many people on this team that have to make sure that this is a good deal. For example, your mortgage is, if you're paying 20% down, 80% the bank is paying. And that 80%, the bank wants to make sure that you bought something that is correctly because they're technically 80% liable for that property. So take a deep breath again, and good luck with your home purchase. And I will see you on the next one. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Take care. Bye bye.